What's up guys, Tamaraction here. This is the all new iPhone SE and we did a detailed review of it in our channel, but since its pricing is high in India, it's actually competing against its own family member, which is the iPhone XR. And therefore it's important for us to find out which one from the two is the best one. Well, this video is all about that. It's the comparison of the new iPhone SE and the iPhone XR. We have divided this comparison into 6 sections, which are 1. The design and build quality, 2nd is the display and audio, 3rd is the hardware and performance, 4th is the camera, 5th is the battery, and the last factor is all the other stuff. Now before moving into any of the factors, first let's pull up the official price chart of both these phones, and here as you can see, the XR is approximately 10,000 rupees more than the SE, but during time of sale, the iPhone XR's pricing actually drops in the price range between 40 to 45,000. So now that we have an idea about the pricing, let's start our proceedings with the first factor, which is the design and build quality. There is obvious difference in the size of these two phones, but the materials used are actually the same. Both the phones have a front and back glass with the aluminum rail, and here both the phones are well put together with precise fitting and no flex. Now the iPhone SE is a compact phone by all means, but still it's very solid. On checking the rear section of both these phones, Apple has actually cleaned up their new phone's design by moving the Apple logo to the center, and the iPhone branding is gone, but still they both look nice. And here with the iPhone XR and the iPhone SE, there is only a single camera with a quad LED flash. And here even though both phones' camera protrude out, it's the one in the XR which stays out more. But even then, this XR has been used for more than a year and 6 months, and even after that, the camera lens is scratch free. Then about the aluminum frame in both the phones, it's finished well and both the phones get the exact same button and controls, but since the XR is a bigger phone, it has bigger buttons. Then about the ports available, both the XR and the SE just has the lightning port, which means both miss out the headphone jack. And here both of them get a lightning headphone in their box. Well, even though the core design team has the same foundation, the obvious big difference is the size of the phones. The XR has a standard phone size for 2020, which means it's on the bigger side, and it's a bit thick too. It's not a one-handed phone, but it's still user-friendly because it's not a very massively sized phone. The display size is 6.1 inches, and here the bezels are fairly minimal with a notch that accommodates the front camera and the Face ID sensors. But with the SE, it's a small phone for today's standards. It has a 4.7-inch display with a big top and bottom chin, and here the classic home button is back, which is not a physical button, but instead it's a glass portion, and embedded in that is the Touch ID sensor. Well, the SE can be used with one hand, and it's mainly because on top of being small, it's a very slim phone too. And also the SE doesn't weigh much, while the XR is a bit heavy. Now here both the phones unlock with different technologies, and actually picking the better unlocking method is tough because both these methods have their pros and cons. For speed, Touch ID is the fastest, but for convenience, Face ID is the better one. And here one big advantage the Face ID has is that the notification in the lock screen stays hidden until it sees the registered face, which is not there with Touch ID. And about the accuracy, both are accurate with their own flaws. The problem Face ID has is that the angle of unlocking is limited, and the problem with Touch ID is that your registered finger and the sensor must be dust and moisture free. Now I'm not going to compare things with the mask situation, but in such cases Face ID doesn't work, and with iOS 13.5, you will be directly taken to the passcode screen when you are wearing a mask. So overall, based on the design and build quality, choosing one depends on what your priorities are. If you want a very handy phone which should be slim and has great build quality and you prefer Touch ID, iPhone SE is the one to go for. But if you prefer a bigger phone because you want a bigger screen and the build quality should again be great and you like the convenience of Face ID, well then the XR should be your pick. For me, I actually wanted a mix of the two, but unfortunately we don't have such a device, and here from these two, since I like phones with compact design, my pick from this factor is the iPhone SE. I know the design is dated when checking the front, but that ease of use I get with the size of the SE is what made me choose the SE in this factor. But the second factor will change things because it's about the display and audio. And yet this factor is the biggest downside of the iPhone SE. I'm not going to lag, but I'm going to say it straight, which is in this factor there isn't much competition, and it's not because of the display quality, but it's because of the display size. Well, display size does matter a lot, and here since the iPhone SE is a small phone, its display is also small, measuring 4.7 inches, and it's an IPS LCD display. Its resolution is 1334 by 750, which gives a pixel density of 326 ppi. While the XR on the other hand has a 6.1-inch IPS LCD display, and its resolution is slightly higher at 1792 by 828 pixels, but since the display size is big, the pixel density is the same as with the iPhone SE at 326 ppi, and here the display of the XR has less bezels and curved edges, which makes it look much better. And here, even though the max brightness both these displays can reach is the same in spec sheet, for me, I think the XR has slightly better readability in bright outdoor conditions. And here one thing I've noticed is that the SE's display has a bit of warm touch. And also both the displays have support for True Tone but doesn't have 3D touch. It was a very handy feature, and it's sad that Apple has completely removed it from new iPhones. There is haptic touch, but it's not that great, even though the vibration system in both these phones are excellent. Now in the display side, some users might prefer small screens, and I totally agree to that, but overall what I feel is that if you consume a lot of content or do a lot of browsing, the larger display has its advantages. And yeah, even though the spec sheet shows a lot of similarities for the two displays, other than the size, I did like the XR's display slightly better, and yeah, my choice from the two just based on display is the iPhone XR. And actually same is the case with the audio output from the speakers. I did prefer the sound output from the XR. For loudness, the SE gets more louder, but here based on sound output quality, it's the XR that shines. It's more clear, and hence the experience from the dual speaker setup in the XR was more enjoyable. So overall from this factor, for me the winner is the iPhone XR. Let it be watching videos or playing games, you will enjoy it more in the XR. Well, that takes us to the third factor, which is a very important one, and that's the hardware and performance. Now here the SE gets the latest processor, which is the A13 Bionic chip, and it has the 3rd gen neural engine combined with 3GB of RAM, while the iPhone XR has the 1-year-old A12 chip and the 2nd gen neural engine, and here the XR also has 3GB of RAM. Now a natural thing is that the older processor should be slow, and hence the SE should easily win this round, right? Well, here that's not completely true. I mean, for sure the faster one is the A13 chip in the SE, but that difference is actually not that evident during day-to-day use. Occasionally you can see that very slight upper end of the SE, but to be frank, as of now in iOS version 13.5.1, both the phones perform great. Let it be gaming or casual browsing or taking a picture, everything is actually neck to neck with the SE taking the lead at times. Now this speed thing is actually noticeable while loading games, and that too, it's not very drastic. And about the RAM management, well, both phones does keep 8 to 10 apps in memory, which is actually not bad. Now one place where I could easily tell the advantage of the new processor is about the device getting warm after doing some intense tasks. While doing some heavy gaming or 4K video recording, the XR gets more hot to touch than the SE. Then one thing I would love to touch in this factor is actually about the software support. And about that, well, I'm pretty sure that the XR will get at least 3 more years of software support, which is a great thing, and the SE will surely get an advantage there with maybe an extra more year of support. So choosing a winner in this factor is actually easy because of the newer processor the SE has, but from my usage experience, even though the SE is the winner, I'm still happy with how the XR is performing. And that takes us to the fourth factor, which is the cameras. In this factor, both the phones share a similarity where the main camera is a single 12 megapixel shooter, and the spec of these two cameras are to an extent same. And about the photos captured, well, both phones does take very good shots in good lighting, but in such a scenario, the XR takes shots with a cooler tone while the SE leans towards a warmer tone. And the dynamic range of both these cameras are great, and same is the details. But about the sharpness of the picture, it's actually the shots from the SE which has a slight upper hand. But actually some of the shots look almost identical, and yet these cameras share that similarity when the lighting gets dull. And also, by the way, both the phones doesn't have night mode in the stock camera app, and therefore shots in dark environments are very average. And about the videos captured, well, both cameras can record 4K video at 60 FPS, and actually videos captured from both the phones looks almost identical with same stabilization and sharpness. But here, one thing which the SE does better is actually the settings available in the camera app. Now for instance, if you want to change the video recording quality, you can do it without exiting the app in the SE, but with the XR you have to change it through the settings app. Now it's a small thing, but it's very annoying. And about the front camera, well, both the phones have a 7 megapixel camera with f2.2 aperture, but the one in the XR is the better one for video recording because the XR selfie camera can record at max 1080p 60 fps videos. And about the selfies captured, well, the XR does smoothen the final image more than what the SE does, and therefore the shots from the SE does look more detailed. And also both the cameras does support portrait selfies, and here even the main camera of both these phones can take portrait shots, but that's restricted to only persons. So overall in this factor, I would say it's almost a tie. And in general, both phones are great for video recording with slight upper hand for the XR with videos captured using the front camera. And about photos, selfie shots are evidently sharper from the SE, but from the main camera, photos look great from the two if there is good lighting. And here what I feel is that if the videos on the front camera is very important for you, then the XR should be a priority, else I would say the SE has slight upper hand in terms of sharpness of the pictures taken and also for the ease of changing the settings. So that takes us to the fifth factor, which is the battery. Here size does matter, and therefore the XR with its larger battery is the better one. With the XR, I can easily get approximately 7 hours of screen on time, but with the iPhone SE 2020, well, even though the battery improved with the newer version of the iOS, the screen on time I get is on average between 4 to 4.5 hours, and here from my usage, at the end of the day, the XR will still have approximately 20 to 25% battery left, while the SE runs out of juice around 7 PM. Then about charging, well, both phones support fast charging and also wireless charging, but unfortunately for fast charging you have to buy separate charger and cable because with both phones the charger included is the 5-watt basic charger. So in this factor there isn't any need for confusion, and here the winner in this factor is the iPhone XR. And with that, what we are left with is just all the other stuff, and in that the first thing is that both phones does support dual SIM, where one is eSIM and the other is nano SIM. But here the SE actually supports gigabit class LTE, while the iPhone XR supports only advanced LTE, and therefore the better one in providing LTE speed is the iPhone SE. Then both phones support Bluetooth version 5, but it's only the SE that has Wi-Fi 6 support. And in video playback, both phones support Dolby Vision and HDR10 content, and finally both phones are water resistant with the same IP rating, which is IP67. Well, I guess that's everything for this detailed comparison. So from all this, the pretty easy conclusion is that both these phones are good ones, but before deciding, in the beginning we did take note of the official pricing, and that's also very important in choosing one. And here from the two, the slightly better one in terms of internals is the new SE, and that's the advantage the SE has over the 10R. The iPhone SE has the new processor, improved Wi-Fi and LTE, and better image processing capability because of the new processor. But that's it. Everything else is better with the 10R. The 10R has a bigger display, better audio, great battery backup, and improved videos from the front camera. And yet these are actually core things that matter in day-to-day use. And also if you want to categorize based on unlocking method, that can also be considered, but no matter which one you lean to, they both does their job well. And about voice calls, the earpiece is slightly better in the iPhone 10R. And from all this, even though I do prefer small form factor and slim profile, my pick from the two is the iPhone 10R. I think even without a sale, that price gap is actually justifiable. The 10R is better in a lot of things that matter with day-to-day use, and nowadays since everyone relies a lot on phones for media consumption, that bigger display is very important. But still, if you're not worried about the display size and also about the battery backup, the SE is a powerful device and it's a great one. And maybe after some time if Apple brings the price down for the SE, then it will be much more appealing. And by the way, the iPhone 10R has the double tap to wake feature, which is a handy thing, but for some reason it's actually missing in the iPhone SE 2020. That's all for this video guys, hope you enjoyed it. If so, a like is much appreciated, and before you leave, drop a comment about which one from the two is your choice, and also don't forget to subscribe. See you again in the next one. Till then, bye.